species. So these deer ticks are probably the biggest, or I should say the most common reason that people get exposed to Lyme disease. There's a lot of other questions out there about other routes of transmission of Lyme disease. Do other biting insects transmit it? It's possible. When we look at some of the research out of Europe, there's suggestion that mosquitoes, fleas may carry Lyme disease. There are very few studies on this, so it's really not well known. I know the belief in the United States, at least by public health officials and the CDC, is that it is not. However, we do know that other biting insects can transmit other illnesses outside of Lyme disease. So it can still transmit something like, Bartonella, which is a bacteria that we typically associate with cat scratch fever, but we know that Bartonella can be transmitted through fleas. It can be transmitted through lice. So if people get exposed to other biting insects, it's possible they can acquire a illness that looks like Lyme disease. But whether Lyme disease itself is transmitted through these vectors, it's still unclear, just because they really honestly haven't done a lot of the good research to clarify that. I think most of us who treat Lyme disease are of the opinion that there are other means by which people acquire Lyme disease, because we do see people who live in areas that are not necessarily endemic for deer ticks. They get exposed, and as far as we can tell, they haven't really traveled outside of their local area, that they may have had exposure, in their travels. So I think it's possible. We often don't know where people get their exposure. Most of the people I see in my practice did not pull a tick off their body. They never saw an erythema migrans or any other type of skin rash that would have clued them in that they had that exposure. It's kind of interesting to note, too, that with ticks, when they bite you, unlike other biting insects that you tend to feel the bite or the sting, there's actually an anesthetic in these ticks, so when they bite you, it really numbs the area, and you don't feel the bite at all. So you can't really